Welcome to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. Connecting you with experts and trendsetters who are leading innovation in law enforcement, private security, and personal protection. And now, your host, Adam Wills.
Welcome to episode 25 of the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. On today's show, we are going to piggyback off of episode 19 with Scott Walker, where we talked a bit about transitioning from law enforcement to corporate security. Today, we are going to talk to Carlos Francisco, also known as the Corporate Security Translator. Carlos is a regional security manager at Facebook and is the host of the Corporate Security Translator podcast. On today's show, Carlos is going to talk about some of the challenges and nuances of transitioning into corporate security, and he's also going to announce the release of his new 3-part book series and podcast. So without further delay, here is my interview with Carlos Francisco. Carlos, welcome to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. I'm excited to have you on today. We're going to talk about transition from law enforcement to corporate security some more.
Man, what's up, big dog? Thank you for having me. You're awesome. I appreciate you having me on here. It's going to be a party. Listeners, it's going to be a party here for the next 30 minutes or so. Maybe a little bit different, a little bit crazier, but we're going to have fun while doing it, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Carlos is bringing the sound effects with him today.
Hold on.
A round of applause. Yeah. So we're going to have some fun with that during the show here. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about transition. And this is kind of a good segue, I think, from episode 19 that we did with Scott Walker. In fact, you and Scott Walker are pretty good buddies, right?
Yes, we are. He's an awesome guy. He used to work at Facebook. Now I work at Facebook. So yeah, we have some great conversations.
Did you take his old job or what?
No. He's too cool for me, but I was I'm way below him. But he's a big timer, man. I'm a little timer. So,
well, either way, you've certainly positioned yourself as sort of a guru or expert in helping not just law enforcement, but first responders in general, military veterans transitioning from their full-time careers into I would say their government careers into corporate security and helping set them up for success. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, man. There was a point in time where I realized that there was a lot of folks that were transitioning from the military, law enforcement, emergency services, and the federal careers that they thought it was an easy transition. You come in, I've done these roles. It's an easy transition into corporate security. I got this. And then what I realized that, in the beginning, it's tough. It's an uphill battle just to understand security as a whole. There's a lot of folks out there in the military and law enforcement, all the fields that we mentioned, that don't really work with major budgets, don't really work with access control, don't really work with intrusion detection systems, don't really work with software, hardware, or anywhere that has to do with corporate security and how we run our business. They don't understand the agreement in between an SOS or a contract or a work of statement and how, those security officers and a third-party vendor are not yours. It's not like you're an accountant or a colonel in the Army, and all those folks below you are yours, and you got to lead them where in our world, they're not yours, and the relationship in between those. So I've realized that there was a lot of help that I can kind of help people out, set them up, for success right before they transition out of those careers into the corporate security. And I said, well, let me put a little something together and hopefully help them as they're going through the transition, at least prepare them for what's about to come.
So would you say that, most of these guys and gals, I would assume, that want to transition sort of have this misconception. They're like, hey, you know what? I could dress sharp. I could put on a gun. I know tactics. I know how to, I know how to whoop somebody's butt with some jujitsu or Krav Maga. And therefore I can go into corporate security. Is that sort of the single greatest misconception?
So that's it. And Scott and I, talked about it just the other day too. And it's like, hey, kicking down doors, AR-15s, AR. I'm sorry, any of the weapon systems that are out there. Like, you're never going to use that in the corporate world, so it's pointless. So you think you have the mentality, I got all this down, but most of the stuff you have down, you'll never use other than leadership in the corporate security world. So yeah.
So how do you overcome that? I mean, when you're, whether you're talking to people one-on-one or through your podcast, whatever other mediums that you have, how are you overcoming that misconception? How do you help people understand that it's not that, and it's vastly different?
Yeah. Well, first of all, man, I got to gain their respect and I have to gain their trust, because I'm about to tell them that, hey, thank you for your 25 years in the military, 25 years in law enforcement, and 25 years in the federal careers. I could not do it. I was a cop for a couple of years and then became a reservist for the other 7, so 9 total. I couldn't do it. I couldn't put up with it. I went into it at an older age and just couldn't do it. You did it. Therefore, there are some principles that you're bringing in that are going to be amazing. But I got to tell you some truths. I got to be honest with you. There's some things that you're missing that you need in order to be successful in the corporate world. So first, I got to gain their trust. They have to believe in me, and they have to know that I care. Where I'm coming from is from the heart, man. I'm not trying to put you down. I have a tremendous respect for what you do. That's why I do what I do. So once I get that, once they say, all right, man, Carlos, the Corporate Security Translator really wants to help me. And that's when we start breaking down a lot of the technical stuff that is extremely important. The culture in the corporations, that's extremely important. The approaches to things, approaches to meetings, how you walk, how you talk. And then we break down budgets, standards, policies, and procedures. Like I said, intrusion detection systems, camera systems. I'm willing to talk to anybody about anything just to prepare them or give them a little bit of a nugget of what they're going to need, even for their interviews. So it's a process, but I do it out of love.
So I love how you pointed out that you have to gain their trust first, and that's your first step. That's the first goal that you set when creating these relationships and trying to help somebody with that transition. That's one of the things that I talk about a lot is, and it's from a marketing perspective, so it's a little bit different, but kind of the same idea. Yep. It's just understanding the phases of a relationship. Every relationship. Yes. Every relationship, no matter what it is, follows these 3 phases, and you can't skip one. You can't spend too little or too much time in any one. And that's curiosity, enlightenment, and commitment. And they have to be in that order.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And the enlightenment piece is that, and the commitment that I have towards those folks, the military, law enforcement, emergency service, and federal folks, they have to see that my commitment is there. Look, we spend, myself, Scott, even Brian Tuskin is another one that's out there doing a lot of great things. He's the chief security officer out at Microsoft. We're spending a lot of our own personal dime, our own personal time, and our own personal everything. My wife usually goes, "Oh, you got another podcast?" Well, it's how I give back. I wasn't born in the U.S., by the way. A lot of people don't know this. I was not born in the U.S., but I'm one of the proudest Americans that you come across. If you talk to me, I mean, I'm more American than a lot of people I know. And maybe I'm overdoing it because I was born in Brazil, but I love those people so much. And I don't know how to give back other than to do that. Man, it's just, again, we give a lot of time out of our families to do this, and we just want people to know that we care, and we're out, trying to help. So, yeah.
Well, on everybody else's behalf, I sure appreciate, I appreciate you making that commitment, because I think there's, like you said, there's a need for that right now. There's a lot of people that are, considering this sort of a path. Yeah. I tend to talk more about what I call copreneurship and starting your own business, but you're kind of on the other side of that. And there's lots of cops that they don't want to start their own business. They don't want to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
They just want to find an opportunity in the private sector that relates to them and embodies who they are in character and spirit. And private security or corporate security often become sort of the target, the object of interest in those sort of circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, Adam, you're right, by the way, too. So when I sit down with somebody and I get, I put time in my calendar to sit down with folks all the time. I'm also with Veterati, which is a wonderful group of people that mentors military folks. Um, when I put time, I literally tell them at times, man, you might just want to go be a cop. Like whenever you retire, go be a cop, because I don't think the corporate security world is going to be for you. Your heart, your mission is still kicking down doors, and doing those things. Guns, kicking out doors. It might not work for you. And then I also say exactly what you're saying, Adam. Hey, you might want to try your own company, your investigative company, your own intelligence company, your own consulting company, your own pick one of those. And or there's a lot of those companies out there already, right? And this, you interviewed a bunch of those folks that are out there already consulting. See if you get in one of those teams and put in your 2 cents into our world. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of, there's no one size fits all solution, and you've got to assess the situation before you start throwing advice out there, right?
Absolutely, man. And I've seen it all. Look, I started with the Walt Disney Company a long time ago. 1994 is when I started with them. I was with them for 21 years. I've been led by the most amazing people that you can possibly imagine. Everybody retires, they go to Florida. That's the thing. I literally do think that every military branch, when you go out and get your last DD 214 or whatever it is that you get as you're walking out, man, they literally have an HR sheet that says go to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and we get the most amazing. Look, at one time I led a captain that was an NYPD when 9/11 happened, a sergeant when 9/11 happened. I had a 1-star general in the Army, and I had a command sergeant major, E9, and I'm leading them, and I'm like 31 years of age. You think I was leading them? No, man. They were teaching me everything that you could possibly imagine about leadership. So, again, another reason why I have to give back to those folks, because I wouldn't be where I am today without amazing folks like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about what are some tips or advice that you give guys before they're going into an interview? What's different about interviewing for private sector versus in law enforcement?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I start even a little bit with culture, if you don't mind, Adam. I tell them, look, you're about 5 years out, 3 years out, or something like that. You need to start connecting with people on LinkedIn. You go connect with somebody in the tech industry. Go connect with somebody in the biopharm industry. Go connect with somebody in the hospitality industry, and then ask them to pick their brain. The great thing about folks in our line of business, either military, law enforcement, security, we love to help. And that's probably the reason why we got into this to begin with. We love to help. So reach out to them. Back in the days, I used to say, go buy them a cup of coffee, buy them lunch, dinner, whatever the hell you have to do to go and get into their brains. Today, it's even easier. You got 15 minutes of your time because you want to learn what those cultures are about to see if you're a fit. Let's say you found your fit. Now you start applying for different jobs. The great thing that you've hopefully were able to put together is a group of people that are already inside the building. I talk about this concept of finding someone that's inside the building. Back then, your resume would get you through the door. Congratulations. Today's not that way anymore. What you need to do is find somebody that's inside the building that can put your resume into past the front door of the building, and then ultimately it gets you through the front door. Look, I work for Facebook. One position, we get about 500 applicants, okay? 500 applicants. You have to beat the odds. Beat the odds, meet somebody from the inside. They can put your resume right to the hiring manager, and that skips you getting into the building. So you do that, right? You create some relationships, you go through the building. Then let's say you do get the job. The great thing about, you do get the opportunity to go through an interview. The great thing about companies today is that the recruiters, they get measured by how many people get the job. So they're doing everything in their power to set you up for success. What I say, listen to everything they have to say. Navigate through every website they send you. Prepare for interview. If you go to Amazon, I was a cluster manager leader with Amazon, the region of California. And we used to tell people all the time, learn the STAR method of interviewing. Well, they sent me that and they said, look, you want to interview well for us? You follow that. That's the recruiter. You follow the STAR method, right? So that's exactly what I did. I took it in and I learned it. So pay attention to the recruiters. Now you get to the interview. Ask the recruiters, how should I dress? I work for Facebook. When I tell you people come to work in sandals, board shorts, and I've seen guys wearing a naked girl T-shirt, a T-shirt with a naked girl walking around campus because it was art. Adam, it was art, my friend. It's art. It's
Wow.
okay, buddy. It's Facebook. Now, we wouldn't do that, right? But what I'm trying to get to is that if you come and you interview with a suit and tie at Facebook, I'm telling you, my desk, because we're all open desks at Facebook. When I was in the office, my desk was at the front entrance of our building, our security building. I saw everybody that came in. And I am telling you, if you came in for an interview with a suit and tie, automatically we were talking about you. And the odds of you getting that gig, because we're not that stiff. Look at me, man. You know, I'm a regional guy in charge of a bunch of data centers, man, throughout the U.S. I'm not that stiff. Imagine if you came in with a suit and tie. So learn that. Don't come in with a suit and tie. Learn about the interview process. Follow the recruiters. Learn from your buddies. Ask your buddies, hey, how did you interview? How do people interview create some relationships on LinkedIn. I know that was a lot, bud, but Adam, I could keep on going, man. You got to stop me.
No, that's good
sometimes.
stuff. You made an excellent point there that, there's no steadfast rules for how to interview or how to present yourself, because it depends upon the culture of the company that you are looking at interviewing with, right? I mean, so what works for Facebook might not work somewhere else. And that's a really important point to make.
Yeah, that's absolutely it, man. You have to look culture. You have to know the culture. You have to know if you know yourself that you're just a rigid human being, it's okay. It's okay. But I promise you, do not go work at Facebook. Don't.
So
AWS will be a good one for you, actually. No, I'm serious. If you're coming out of the military, law enforcement, Amazon is always hiring, and there's a reason why they're always hiring, because they're very militaristic. And if you go fall in line, and that's what drives you every single day, I'd highly suggest Amazon or AWS, Amazon Web Services.
Huh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that there would be such a dichotomy between the two.
Oh, absolutely, man. The principals, they're hard driving. It's a hard driving company. There's a reason why they are who they are. And to give you another insight, leaders at Amazon only last 16 to 18 months. A lot of people don't know that. 16 to 18 months. I was with Amazon 1 year and 10 days, to be exact. There's a reason why I was with Amazon 1 year and 10 days, which I'm not really going to talk about, but you can guess. Sometimes it's a fit. What I learned in getting older now in my career, that there is such thing that it just wasn't a fit. A lot of people are afraid to say those words as you're trying to get hired somewhere else, but it wasn't a fit for me. Or a year and 10 days, there's these stocks that hit you at your 1 year anniversary. I waited 10 days to make sure I hit my bank account, but that's a whole other story. But leaders, leaders are, somewhere in between 16 to 18 months. And in the 1 year that I was there, I had 4 different bosses.
Oh, wow.
4 different bosses. So that's
hard to manage.
Difficult. Well, it's hard as an employee, right? Because you get sent in 4 different directions. So think about this. If you're a person that desires a mission, you live by a mission, that might be tough for you, because every 3 months, your new boss was giving you a different mission, a different approach. If you're a person that enjoys the mission, corporate security, the corporal might miss. It might be a miss for you, because a lot of times I still try to find my mission. When I was a cop, I knew exactly what my mission was. Today, I struggle with that a lot. And one of the podcasts that I did, if y'all get a chance to listen to, is one that I did with Altaf Bora. And he was an intelligence military special forces guy. He actually works for Facebook. And he was pretty candid about, man, my feelings. I don't have the feelings that I used to have when I was in a group. A group of guys and gals that had a mission, and we were willing to die for each other, right? The corporate world doesn't give you that. It's not going to give you that. But guess what may give you that? The cop world. My squad. I still talk to my squad till today out of Seminole County Sheriff's Office. I mean, I still talk to the police chief when I went to Howie in the Hills as a reservist, because they had a reservist program. You're not going to get that in the corporate world. That's the ones that I go, hey, you either might want to start your own company, or there's a lot of police force, especially in today's world, that are dying for great military folks that are looking for that second career. They're looking for them. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, that feeling of isolation and separation from the camaraderie of a pack, if you will, is
Yeah.
it's real, man. I talked about that on a very recent episode that just aired a couple weeks ago about my
I
experience in transitioning out of law enforcement and feeling like I was isolated and not knowing really how to address that, kind of losing focus on what my purpose and mission were. I could enjoy my business and what it provides for me and the lifestyle it's created for me and all of those things. I enjoy helping my clients grow their businesses. There was that feeling of, well, this isn't the same as going to work every day and knowing, you know what, I'm going to go bust a drug dealer today, or I'm going to, help rescue this woman from a lifetime of domestic violence, or, whatever it may be, it's very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah, man. And it's, you can only be a sheepdog for so long, for the folks that understand that comment. I think a lot of your listeners understand it. Everybody, we're sheepdogs, man. We're not trying, we're in our own path, trying to protect the whole world and all that other stuff, man. But you might not get that in corporate security. The odds are you're not going to get it. And, and it's sad to see, by the way, the ones that fail in corporate security were not able to transition to shut off that switch and go into a corporate mentality, which is a lot different, man. It's a lot of competition. It's a lot of project management, So again, look, not every company's like that. Okay. One thing that I despise when people go, you're putting a blanket statement on everybody. Lord, I'm talking about my experience, and that's my experience. You can't live my experience. So, yeah, man. But that's what I try to do. I just try to help people find their own path, man. I'm open all the time for conversations, and I'd like them to be honest with me, really what they're trying to do and try to accomplish. Look, some folks, Adam, they were lieutenant colonels and up. Let's say they spent a lot of years getting to those positions, and they did really well. And they automatically think, well, if I don't get a director or vice president position in a major corporation, it's no good. It's unbecoming of my resume, or, and I'm like, listen, man, you're starting a whole new thing. Why don't you just focus on getting into a company, concentrating and learning about the corporate security business, show what you can do, which is leadership. That's what those folks, people that come out of those fields, man, that's what you have. Show that, show the team, show the camaraderie, build that team. And I promise you're going to move up. But a lot of them are like, well, I worked hard for this. And I said, I know you worked hard for this. So have I. We all have. That's what we do. But you have to be honest with yourself, and you got to be serious about what you want to do in your approach,
And humble, right? Humble about it.
Oh my God. And humble and being able to learn, man. Being able to learn is a key, because there's a good chance, and I always say it in the book, by the way, I also have a book coming out. It's called So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. It's coming out June 30th. Pre-sales are on right now. But I talk about there's a good chance a couple of your first months in those rooms, those folks that are in there, and they might be 20 years younger than you, probably know more about security systems than you do. There's a good chance they know more about security standards, policies and procedures, post orders, contract negotiations, going through RFPs. You have to listen to them. You have to be humble enough to listen to them. You're like a new baby. You're a new baby. It's a new life for you. And that's okay. But there's wonders about being a new baby, because everything's so cool. I want you to literally go back, and I've said this before. Go back to when you were a kid, man, and everything was so cool. We can't go back. I mean, a lot of those A personality folks can't do it. And that's why sometimes I say, hey, I don't know if corporate security may be for you, because you have to be a baby in wonder. You have to wonder every day when you come to work,
all the new opportunities and new things to learn and new insights to gain. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about your side of town, but I'm sure it's kind of like the same way. Even if you're starting a new company or something like that, you have to really be humble and willing to learn, man.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to learn. You have, everybody, especially now, because I'm a few years in, and everybody's like, "Man, your business is so successful. You're doing awesome. You're coaching all these other people and starting their business." And they
Yeah.
think that I was just born with that somehow. Like, it's just natural. Right. And there was a lot of really stupid mistakes that I made and I'm still
Yeah.
making. We all got to learn lessons, and that's the only way that we can in fact present what we learn to others, is often by making mistakes and doing it the wrong way the first time. It's
Right.
just the process of figuring it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're not humble about it, then you can't receive advice, you can't receive criticism,
Yeah.
and then you're bound to fail.
Let me ask you a question. But I don't know if it's personal or not, but there's a lot of folks that might want to get into that kind of side of your side of town. And have you ever been afraid when you were starting out? Because now, yeah, I'm guessing you have to provide for you, and I see some pictures behind you, so you have a family and stuff. You have to provide. Were you ever afraid, like, man, I'm going to do this? I hope it works. Have you been afraid? You're like, I got this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And sometimes I still am. But you have to be a little bit afraid, right? Because that's what helps you make wise decisions. But I was fortunate when I left, when I actually retired. I do have an ID that says retired on it, just for the record. I know
There you go.
Everybody's like, dude, how can you be retired? But anyway, when I retired, I knew I was going to be leaving. I had 6 months to kind of plan for that. And so that 6-month period of time, I was socking money away where I could,
Right.
I also had this distinct advantage that when I left, I had a bunch of leave buyout accumulated. And so
Perfect.
when I left, I cashed out, and I was able to fund the first 6 months of being unemployed, if you will, or self-employed, and so that really helped. By the time that 6-month period had lapsed, we were already well on the way to being successful and having a steady income. And so,
Right.
not everybody has that, but that's part of what I preach to everybody and talk about is, don't just ride through your law enforcement career on the seat of your pants and figure, I'm just going to assume I'm going to be here for the rest of my career, and I'm going to be here until the day I turn 60 and I can retire and get a full pension. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to
Right.
get an injury and be out in a heartbeat. Maybe your circumstances like mine. I was second in command of the sheriff's office. I was appointed by the sheriff. The sheriff lost his reelection campaign in the primary, and all of a sudden,
how
things
that
changed
goes
for me. Yeah, and so it wasn't what I anticipated or planned either. And in fact, I very well could have continued my law enforcement career, but I chose not to. I chose to take this adventure into coppreneurship. But yeah, no, I mean, there's always periods. I think what you're getting at, and what you are likely experiencing with the folks that you work with, is that whenever you do something new, whenever you make an adjustment into a new career, really kind of a new identity in a way, there's always going to be a period of uncertainty and unknown. And with that comes some level of fear and anxiety about, is this going to work? How do I do it? What's going to happen if I can't make it? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. In the military, they call them battle buddies. You got to find the same thing in the outside world. You got to find a couple of folks that you can rely on, that you can talk to, that can mentor you, that can guide you, that can be your soundboard, that can be all those things. You're gonna have to create new relationship once again. Man, I always tell folks, look, you think you're the
You have
first
to
person
find
retiring.
community.
Yeah, you're not the first person retiring. You need to start reaching out, at minimum 3 years before you retire. You need to start making contacts with everybody that you worked with in your sheriff's office, city, in the military, because there's a lot of folks that retired and now they have cool careers, and you need to go and connect with them, and somebody told me the other day in a podcast, you got to sometimes just eat your pride. If no, you can't find anybody that works for a company that's from the Army. All right, find somebody from the Air Force. All right. And just tell them, hey, we're military folks. Let's talk. Anyways, man, it's about leaving your pride behind, I think, Adam, and you gotta be
Yeah.
humble, and you have to in a way live the old servant leadership kind of life, or just being a servant to the process. A lot of people just want to be like Carlos, kind of, leadership director level kind of stuff. Well, man, there's a lot of years for me to get there, and this is my career since I was young. Anyways, so being humble is it, man, and vulnerable. Being vulnerable. A lot of things that I've learned that law enforcement folks, military folks are afraid to be in the workplace is vulnerable. I
Yeah.
tell my people all the time that look, I'm leading special forces folks. I'm leading guys that were running Fort Huachuca, that were doing director security with NASA, and they're part of my team. And I tell them all the time, I literally am so vulnerable all the time. Look, how do I lead such amazing folks like yourselves? Help me. And that's something I learned from Disney at 31, leading a one-star general. Actually, one of my bosses said, Carlos, you can't talk to him like that, man. Go sit down with one of them and ask them to help you. You're going to see how things are going to change. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, man, you got to be vulnerable. You got to tell them, are you afraid? Are you afraid to lead them, Carlos? Well, boss, I don't want to say I'm afraid. Man, look, you can be honest with me. And I said, it's daunting because these folks have this major career. And here I am, a little guy, right? Well, go tell them. Go tell them that you're afraid. Sit down with them and tell them that you're afraid to lead them because of their background or where they came from. And you're just trying to make a career in life, for you and your family. See what happens. And being that vulnerable changed my entire career and how I moved up in the Disney company. And then later on, I got a chance to get out here to California with the Great America Complex, Super Bowl 50, go into Amazon and then shoot up into Facebook. So vulnerable and humble. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's excellent advice. And that really resonates with me. When I became undersheriff, I was only 30 or 31,
Yeah.
and I was the youngest undersheriff in the state of Colorado at the time. And I
Wow.
came in.
Congrats, man.
Thanks. I came
But the
into the
weight on your
agency.
shoulders, though.
Yeah, it was huge because it wasn't like this agency that I became undersheriff in was one that I spent my time in my career in. I came from a much bigger agency, and then came out here, and
Right.
these were all people I was leading, people I didn't know, many of
Right.
which that had been cops longer than me.
Right.
And it was the same thing. It was very awkward at first because I'm thinking, man, how do I gain their respect and get them to understand that that I do have something of value to bring to them as a leader,
Yeah.
even though I'm younger than them or have less time in the career than them. And that's what it took, was vulnerability. It took me sitting down
Yes.
one-on-one with each of those people and saying to them, listen, I know that, I don't have 20 years in or 15 years in like you do, but I
Yeah.
want you to give me an opportunity to show you what I have to offer, and just
Yeah.
being vulnerable about it. Yeah, man.
Absolutely, man. It's yeah, and I have a feeling we could go on forever and ever and ever. I know that
Yeah.
you're in a time crunch, and your podcasts are usually set in a certain timeline, man. But I don't
Oh
know.
no, we're good, man.
Oh, we're good.
So
Okay, good, perfect.
no, that's all right. I want to hear from you because this whole thing is about corporate security, right? So I want to know
Yeah.
what keeps you in it. Like, what is awesome about corporate security? What's the draw for people? Both the reality and maybe not so.
Yeah, for me, it's going to sound really weird, and I really mean it. It's not about the money anymore. I've gotten to a point in my career that it's not about the money. I make enough money. Facebook, a lot of tech companies pay really well, and we have tremendous bonuses, and we have tremendous stock options, and that's the beauty, by the way. If you ever come from the government world, you don't have those things. That, by the way, call me anytime. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll tell you more about it. I don't care. I'll share with you numbers. It doesn't matter to me. So that's not it. What keeps me going is the opportunity to give back, to feel that I'm needed. I have this feeling that if I'm not needed, then I'm losing it. If I can't put my mind, my thoughts into something and create something, either in the basis of policy and procedures, audits, assessments, figuring out new standards of build and everything else, then it doesn't drive me anymore, because money is not everything. I left AWS making more money, by the way, than Facebook. So money is not everything. Is that feeling? And I think we all adults, have that need to be wanted, to be part of something great that's building something. We like to build. I don't have to build it with my hands anymore, but I can build it with my mind. So that's what keeps me in corporate security, because it's ever changing. Look, COVID-19, I was part of the COVID-19 team for Facebook. And I'm talking about from day one, March 3rd, we started kicking this thing off of last year. And I finally got out of a team this year. So I was in it in a year through all the steps, the iteration of the different types of EOs, how many people we're going to have at the sites, who is essential and who's not, all the way through testing. How we're going to test people as they're coming into the sites, temperature checks, how we're going to temperature check, how we're going to do the 6 feet apart distancing within the data centers and global security. How we're going to, and now we have these tests that are coming in that we're going to ask our folks to test every week or so. That is what excites me, man, is being in the middle, being in the thick of things, still building, still growing. That's where it's at with corporate security, and it's ever changing. Somebody comes in, have an active shooter. We're very focused on that. Now we're building things for this. Somebody comes in and we're dealing with a lot of asset protection issues. Well, let's everybody jump on this and do asset protection. Executive protection, which, by the way, I hate it. I'm not an executive protection guy. You have to really love that. But look, we're moving into people's houses. We're putting security systems everywhere now. We're putting security systems in vehicles. Well, how do we attack those problems? That's what I'm about, man, is attacking problems, and being needed. There you go.
Right on. Awesome.
A lot of stuff. Sorry, buddy.
No, that's good, man. So tell me, you mentioned your book earlier that's coming out. So you want to get into corporate security. Tell me more about that. What motivated you to write this book, and what's it all about?
What motivated me at the beginning is that I had a lot of amazing leaders that knew absolutely nothing about corporate security. That is the God honest truth. And I would find myself 2 to 3 years just educating, right? So I said, and sometimes it would impede me from being needed. I didn't feel like being needed. I felt like I was babysitting for a long period of time, because I've been doing this since I was freaking 19 years old at the Walt Disney Company. That's been doing security corporate security since 1955 at a large scale all over the world. So I said, what can I do? What can I do? And I sat with a couple of my past bosses and I said, what can I do to help you? Hey, what do you know about cameras? I don't know much. What do you know about analytics? What do you know about software? What do you know about intrusion detection systems, right? Southwest Microwave, any of the vibration system, IR beams. What do you know about? No, I don't know. I don't know much about that. Okay. I'm going to put something together that before you even retire, and if that's what you want to do, you want to go to corporate security, I'm going to put a step-by-step process from looking into cultures, talking to people, reaching out to people, going through interview processes, understanding just a tidbit about what corporate security is all about, and breaking all those things down that I just talked about, from standards all the way down to security systems and more. I said, if I could put that in place, then maybe I don't have to spend so much time educating, and I could go do other things that I want to do, is get really involved with the teams, man, really push the teams to move forward. I want to just get down and dirty in that kind of way. By the way, I learned a lot from teaching too. So it's not like it was a waste of my time. And that's not what I meant to say. I just needed to set them up for success before they even became my bosses. I think that's what it was, man.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by. I'm not interested in transitioning to corporate security personally, but you've sold the book to me, because that just sounds fascinating to me, and I definitely would be interested in reading that.
I'll tell you, it goes deep. It goes a little bit deep too. It goes into fence lines. A lot of people don't understand about 4Ks through 12, how the Ks work on fence lines. I just give you a little bit. I don't give you a lot of stuff because nobody wants to really go in deep in that. Talk about intrusion detection systems. Just enough, by the way. This is just enough to get you talking like you know what you're doing, so you do really well at interviews.
There you go.
You know what I mean? I just want you to just have enough, man, about this system and how corporate security works. So when you get into that interview, people ask you technical questions, which usually I'm the technical interviewer, for Facebook. I'll sit there, man. I'll drill you. Tell me about key systems have you used? And I've gotten people before. Yeah, we used to use a sheet of paper, and people used to take a key number 2, and we used to put their name and we put key number 2 next to it, and then we put out check. I mean, I get that. I get that all the time. So. Anyways, man, I just wanted to help get people prepared for when they come into my field. They already have an idea, and how to really be successful. So, yeah,
Awesome. And is this your first book?
yeah. This is my first book, so it's a soul series. So this is a so you want to get into corporate security. The next one is so what is security, and underneath it, there's going to be a line through is, and it says isn't. Because a lot of people think that law enforcement into corporate security is an easy transition, military to corporate security is an easy transition. There, yes and no. Like I said, you might not want to be a road sergeant as a cop, and all of a sudden you're taking over a team that's I don't know, security systems. Unless you know security systems, that's probably a bad idea. So what is and what isn't, and the last one is so you want to be a corporate security leader. And that's for the folks that really want to get into a leadership position in the corporate security world. And that's going to be all about leadership in the corporate security world.
Brilliant. So are these books coming out like in immediate succession to each other, or what's the timeline on that look like?
Yeah, it depends on my wife and kids. How fast they allow me to type, but it's not an immediate succession. We're taking every 6 months or so. We're going to be launching a new one. So June coming up. So hopefully by December we have the second book, and then after that we'll have the third book. But yeah, look, I'm pumped, man. Like I said, I just want to help. I want to get people to be excited about corporate security. I want people to get in. Scott Walker has this thing about getting a military person into every single corporation. I believe he's right. For me, it started really more law enforcement because military has a lot of help. As you probably know, military has a lot of groups that are willing to help people transition, but law enforcement does not. Brian Tuskin is going to be coming out with a website for law enforcement folks to help them transition. So y'all check out Brian Tuskin also on LinkedIn. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Right
man.
on. So where do you think the future of the corporate security industry goes? What does that look like?
Yeah, man. For me, it's going to be technology based. It's going to be based on customer service 100%. We'll start running away from a lot of the principles that directly guide people towards a militaristic style, a law enforcement style of business. So customer service based 100%, almost like concierge. If you go into a lot of companies, the front desk folks, a lot of them were kind of, back then they used to be called secretaries. Now they're called coordinators. But that will be kind of also a security function, which is kind of is in some companies now. But it'll be technology based and customer service based, 100% customer service, with report writing and everything else being secondary. Observe and report being secondary. So that's how I feel. And this is a guy coming from Disney, right? Where everything for us, that's what we're called, security hosts at Disney, because our job is to host everyone. How we approach things is about hosting and talking to people and reaching out to people and guiding them in a direction, always trying to attempt to figure out where they want to go next and read into their minds on how we can share our Disney message and at the same time guide them to where they want. That's what security is going to need to be like in the future if you want to stay. A lot of these big companies, which I won't name any names because I work with a bunch of them, I love to see that. I love to see them move into a 99% customer service based, and then the other 1%, the security stuff, which you can teach anybody. One of the best security officers, hosts I ever had was a guy that was with, Buffalo Wild Wings as a server. Started with Buffalo Wild Wings. He was the best server in the world. Guess what? He could talk to people, man. Anyways, customer service and technology, my friend.
Right on. Well, any closing thoughts or anything you wanted to cover that we didn't do so already?
Nah, listen. Thank you for doing what you're doing. The public safety innovator stuff, it's really cool. We need it. The future is here. Law enforcement and everybody's getting beat up. I thought I shut that ringer off, man. That's I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but so we have a lot of great things that are going on, and a lot of weird things going on in our industry. And I hope that we become more customer service based, and that will allow us to kind of move forward into the future. So I'm excited about that. And I'm here. Call me, talk to me, find me on LinkedIn. Everybody, I want to help. That's what it's in my heart to do. And, just like myself and guys like Adam, we just want to help, so.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, why don't you take a minute, plug your stuff, your books, your podcast, and tell everybody where they can find you.
All right, so the podcast, you can find me everywhere. It's the Corporate Security Translator, and anywhere podcasts are available, that's where I'm at. Also on YouTube, you just plug in the Corporate Security Translator, and I'm the guy that comes up on the videos all the time, talking about different things, everything from just corporate security. We're coming out with a new podcast called BSing About Security, and it's just that's specific, Adam, to a lot of the stuff kind of that we talked a little bit today. It could go anywhere. I don't know. There's going to be no script, so we're going to throw that out. And the book is coming out with How to Conquer is the publishing company, and it's coming out with So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. June 30th, pre-sales are out there. I'll give everybody the link if you want. Just reach out, and that's it, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show. And of course, as always, I will put all of the links to everything that Carlos mentioned in the show notes for this episode, which you can find at psi.chat/025 for episode 25. All right. So thanks for tuning in. Carlos, thanks for being on the show. And of course, everybody, stay innovative.
Love it.
Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review at psi.chat/review. I would love to hear your feedback, and it will also help other public safety innovators like yourself find the show. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. Just go to psi.chat, click on episodes, and search this episode number, and you'll find all the links, descriptions, and resources we talked about. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and you'll be notified when the next episode is live. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.